Hello friends, I'm Brian, and this is Gizmo Board Games. Today, I am reviewing Jiangnan, Life of Gentry by Moaideas, designed by Du Wei. And didn't know much about this game when I got it. I've talked about it a bunch recently, so you've heard it come up in a lot of my videos. If you're a regular viewer, I do apologize, but hey, let's go ahead and talk about how it's played and my gizmo thoughts on it here in this review. And if you're new to the channel or new to this game being mentioned, welcome. And let's go ahead and try to dig into this. I'm going to try to be as concise as possible, at least in my overview. Obviously, I'll throw in some game overlays. And just forewarned, I did 3D print some elements, and I've got the Kickstarter upgraded deluxe version. So your results may vary if you purchase the game. But the gameplay will be the same. It's just a matter of whether the components look the same or not as to what you'll see in my images. That said, what kind of game is this? Well, this is one of those everything but the kitchen sink type games. And I mean that there's a lot going on in this one. There's action selection, worker placement, a little bit of area control, some resource management, and it's one of those really crunchy Euro games that I really enjoy. And if you enjoy it, this could be your time to game too. So how does the game play? Well, first of all, everybody's going to start with the same 12 action hexagons. Those hexagons are divided into two parts. The top part is going to be the place selection, or your action selection, where you're going to place one worker in a round and then take the actions at that location. There are 6 different locations, and so you've got a variety of options of movement and choices for where to go, and what to do at those locations are going to vary, and we'll cover that shortly. But everybody start with the same 12 starting actions. On the top half, again, is going to be actions, 2, I believe, for each of the 6 spaces. So you're going to have 12 action hexagons in your bag, from which you're going to pull out 4 and place onto your little table there, your action selection and resource hold table. It's going to have quite a bit going on, but your player board is going to hold 4 action hexagons to start with. On your turn, you're going to select one of those action hexagons to move to the top of the board and move one of the workers to that location from your board. Then you're going to eliminate from the game, discard the next most right action selection. So if you take the 3rd action in your line, you're going to lose the first tile. If you take the first tile, you're going to lose the second tile. For the rest of the game, you will not have that tile. However, you will gain the benefit of the bottom half of that hexagon as you discard it. So you're going to use one action tile of the 4 on your board as the action, and then the other one for a resource, and that's going to be your rightmost. You don't get to choose that. So you've got to kind of pick and choose and plan ahead a little bit. So after you do that, you're going to go and take your one of 6 actions. There are various action places on the board. A couple of them are going to allow you to gain resources, because what you are artists, and your resource are ideas, artistic ideas. They come in 3 forms. It's going to be writers, actual artists, painters and things like that, and dramatists, people performing in plays or doing opera or whatever the case is. That's the 3 basic ideas which lead you to publish your works in that, or do performances, however you want to look at whatever the idea is. And they come in 3 colors. So if you want to think abstractly, you've got red, blue, and yellow resources. You've also got a money resource. So 2 of those places, or actually numerous of those places, you can go in and get more ideas in, or more resources in, or more money in. 2 of those locations are going to allow you to publish your works, and that is to use your ideas to publish portfolios that you have in waiting. And one of the locations is you can go get a portfolio or 2. There's travel locations, which allow you to gain resources and travel around the board, and those travel actions can give you various actions. There's parlor action, where you can pick up helpers. So the first time you use a helper, you're going to get the resources. The second time you use the same helper, you're going to actually get that helper and be able to use it ongoing the rest of the game. The game is played over 6 rounds. So you're going to have 6 rounds of 3 actions each round. So you're going 18 total turns. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but as the game gets rolling, you actually do quite a bit, because some of those actions are going to let you combo. And in the end, all you're doing is gathering resources and using those resources to publish works to get more points and money in the refresh round. So every turn, you're just going to take an action, from the tiles on your display and discard the next rightmost tile for the good. Usually it's going to be just an idea, but that might give you other options as well, especially later in the game, because you're going to be able to draft new tiles to your bag at the end of a round. So what happens at the end of the round? Once everybody takes all their actions, you're going to go through the refresh phase. The first part of that is for every action you have put a worker out on for that round, you're going to put one of your smaller workers into the boat. That boat is kind of going to be your area control part, because in the first few rounds, those boats are going to be end of round scoring options. There's going to be 2 options for you to choose from, and whoever has the majority on that boat when it gets to the end of the line gets to choose which of the 2 in-game scoring tiles are going to be used for the game. So early on, that tile is going to be used because you're going to do a scoring round after rounds 2, 4, and 6, which is the end of game scoring as well. So early on, you're fighting to make sure that the end of round scoring tiles that you want out on the board are going to be out there, because those are the ones you're building towards, which means you need to have some area control in those boats, which means you might need to place workers somewhere just to get a person into the boat. That way you can get that majority and get the scoring tile you really want out there. And once this boats leave, they're going to recycle back to the end of the line, and now they're going to get another end of game scoring tile, and the area majority and second place only are going to score on those for however many they do. So if you've published a lot of yellow works of art, then you're going to want to get majority in that score 4 points per yellow works of art boat. So it's area majority to get the end of round actions, and then again later, area majority to get end game scoring on those boats, because if you're not in control of a boat that you have a bunch of scoring points on, you're really missing out. So not only you place some workers where you need to go to do the actions and get the resources, you're also thinking about the majority on each of those boats. And that's just a neat concept that I really enjoy about this game. So you're going to play the rounds, you're going to place the workers, you're going to take the actions at the spots, which are, again, generating resources, maybe doing combos where you can go to one spot to take an action because you don't have that action available currently. Publish your works, because that's going to give you lots of scoring points. Some of them generate points at the end of every round, and some of them just give you a bunch right when you publish the works. And then at the end of the round, you're going to go through and you're going to accumulate income from the works you've published, from where you've got people out in the parlor and in the tavern from where you publish works. You're going to generate some more either money or points based on where they're at and who all is still sitting there. But then you're going to go through a draft, and basically, again, in order of those 6 action spots, wherever your person is, from left to right, you're going to draft from a tile or a pile of tiles or a selection of tiles that have been pulled out for the next round. And as those rounds go on, those tiles are going to give you more and more options, either better resources or maybe a this or that worker spot, which is really big late in the game. And when you're really, running out of options or really need to make sure you get a worker into spots, using those either or actions tiles is going to be really important to try to get the people out and take those actions you really want to take late in the round. So at the ends of rounds 1, 2, 3, and 4, you're going to go in basically reverse order of where your power is on the boats to draft new tiles, and you're going to have new tiles to add to your bag and get bigger and better actions and bonuses as the game progresses. And then at the ends of rounds 2, 4, and 6, like I mentioned before, you're going to score each of the end of round scoring tiles. So the scoring tiles from round 1 and 2 are going to score all 3 of the scoring rounds, whereas the scoring tile that's put out in round 6 is only going to score in that round. And then you're going to basically recycle the bag maybe every other round. You're going to put your tiles, your 12 tiles that you've now had from drafting and playing back in your bag at the end of round 2, 4, and 6. You also, one of the things you got to keep in track of is your cheers. I forget what exactly it's called. Cheers, because some of the things are going to cost cheers to do, and other things you're going to get cheers for doing, like visiting the tavern. You're happy. But at the end of the round, you're going to have to pay cheers for every unpublished work you have. So you can't just collect a bunch of them to try to score later, because that'll ruin your cheers. And for every helper you got, you're going to have to pay them as well in the form of cheers. And if you ever get to the point where you can't pay cheers, you're actually going to basically lose a turn. You're going to have to take a rest action, which is a valid action in the regular round as well, but you don't really want to take because it's not doing a lot for you. Basically, you're just sending a worker off to the far right boat, which means you get to draft last when it comes to drafting new tiles. And B, they're not going into a boat, because The far right space doesn't even have a boat. The rest space doesn't even have a boat. So you're missing out on that area majority person. But you are going to be able to generate more money, more cheers, and more ideas, I believe, from doing that. But that's about it. Otherwise, it's basically a wasted action. And you're forced to do that if your cheers hit 0 at the end of a round as well, after paying for your unpublished work and workers. But that's the gist of the game, is you're going to action select, put workers out, do actions based on where they're put, and then at the end of a round, you're going to generate income. Every other round, you're going to do a scoring round. And then at the end of the game, you're going to do final scoring. Again, all that's going to be based on majority on boats. I try to simplify things as much as I can and still give you a broad idea of how the game plays. There is quite a bit going on. It's not an easy game. It's not a hard game either. I feel like you can kind of pick it up. And so let's go ahead and get into my gizmo thoughts here before I go rambling on otherwise. So is the game any good? I think so. It really fits the bill for me. I really like games with a lot to think about, a lot going on, tight action selection, resource management. And then you also have to think about, like I said, with the boats, the majority for in-game scoring and for end-of-round scoring, especially in-game scoring, because you might have an in-game tile at a location you don't really want to go to, but you absolutely have to get a worker into that boat if you want to score for all the things you've been doing for the game. And so it's really important to keep that in mind as you play too, that you might always be taking the action you want, because you got to balance getting those workers into the boats for the in-game and in-round scoring objectives. So it's a lot to think about, a lot going on in the game. And for me, I really enjoy that crunchy thinkiness where there's so many things going on, and the gameplay isn't hard. Again, you're going to select an action, put a worker there, and take whatever action is there. Usually it's generating resources or making a portfolio happen. So not a lot of heavy thought into how to play. All the thinking goes into what you're doing to make the best play each turn. Because again, you're only going to have 18 actions in the whole of the game, 3 per round for 6 rounds. So a lot going on, a lot to think about, but in the end, it's not a hard game, and I really like it. It's a really good game, at least for me in my play style. What do I think about the ingredients? I really like the ingredients. The art is relatively simple for the most part. I've got the upgraded deluxe version, so I've got nice metal coins which look like little boats. I 3D printed off my own boats because the cardboard boats, they're nice, but they weren't really working for me. They're kind of big and bulky, so I printed off my own 3D version boats. But the concept of having them to move down the line, that's nice. But nice thick cardboard, good deluxe version ingredients. The art, you'd think it would be better actually in a game about art, but for the most part, it's pretty simple other than, the assistance you can acquire. So maybe the ingredients isn't the strongest, but it's pretty good, especially with the deluxe version. And there's a lot of components. I didn't even mention that, but there are scenarios you can play through and change things up as you play through each of the 6 or 7 different scenarios as well. That has nothing to do with ingredients, so I'll move on. Z, is it easy to play? I mentioned before, the gameplay itself is actually relatively easy. You're going to do action selection and then move a worker out and do an action at that spot and generate resources, spend them to do the mostly published works. But there's a lot to manage, a lot to think about. It is a heavier Euro game than, I wouldn't introduce this to any beginners at all. I'd want to introduce it to people who have experience playing some Euro games first, but that doesn't mean it's overly heavy. It's not super heavy, but it is a pretty thinky game. The actions itself, not hard once you get used to the iconography and what you're trying to do. It's pretty easy to play. The heaviness comes from managing your actions the best you can. Do I want more of it? Is there enough in the box? What's the replayability like? Well, I mentioned before, there are 6 or 7 scenarios that come with the game. You can lay it out and play it basic. You can play some advanced action tiles. You can play with, everybody gets a starting, worker already, and they all have different capabilities. So you can get that asymmetric play right from the bat if you want. There are basic and advanced action tokens. They don't change a whole lot, I don't think, but the advanced ones give you a little bit more action options on the bottom half when you discard them versus just picking up a good or a resource or money. They're actually going to let you take a side action as well. You can publish works with them sometimes. I'm trying to remember what they all are. I've only played with those once or twice myself. But just all the options in the game, there's just so many things you can mix and match, and they give you a whole like playthrough scenario to kind of teach you them in little bite-sized chunks. Each board has a A side and a B side. The final scoring has an A side and a B side. So there's just so many different ways to mix and match. There's so much in the box, straight as it is, to really add a bunch of variability, not to mention just the randomness of the drafting the tiles you're pulling, the way you're using them. You could play the base game a bunch of times before it feels repetitive, before you even add in all those other side options. So there's just so much in the box. There's so much replayability. I definitely want to keep digging into this one. Is it original? I believe so. The Artisan's not a super original theme, collecting resources and, turning them into things, not original, but the combination, the everything but the kitchen sink of the gameplay, the drafting, the tiles selection, where you're getting rid of half your tiles, every 2 rounds, you're going to have 6 new tiles come in for, every a third of the game is you're adding different options into your bag of things. So it's kind of like a bag builder in that way, but you're not building on. It's a bag builder that has built-in discarding of, maybe actions you don't want. And you got to think about making sure you're not discarding actions that you might want later. So you really got to pay attention to what ones are being discarded action-wise. You do get the resource, but did you just discard 2 tavern actions, and now in the next round, you're not going to have any tavern actions, unless you remember that you need to draft some later. And you can keep an eye on your opponents doing the same thing and maybe hate draft and block them out of certain locations. There's just so much going on in this game. I really like it. I don't think I've played many games that feel the way this one feels to play. Just all the thinky action selection, area control, everything you got to think about in this game. It feels original to me, even if it's been done. If it's been done somewhere else, please, please, please let me know. I want to check it out because I really do like this game, which go ahead and get into my final thoughts. What do I rate this game? Well, for me, it's 4.5 out of 5 gizmos, and that's been going up every playthrough as I play it more and get more and more used to playing it. I think it was a 4 at first because it was just a little overwhelming and I wasn't really feeling it all. But as I started to add modules in and play it more and really learn how to min-max, not just taking the actions I want, but make sure my workers are where I need them to be to get control of the boats to score the points. So that's just added more and more enjoyment to it as I play it more and more. So 4.5 out of 5 gizmos. I think it's about an 8.8 if you want to use the BGG out of 10 scale. Yeah, that's 4.5, right? So I really do like this game, and I know not many people know anything about it. So hopefully this at least broadens your horizon on this game, that it exists. And if you like thinky, crunchy Euro games that aren't overly heavy, it's not a Vital Lacerda game, and I played those. It's actually feels lighter than that. Even though it's got a lot of more moving parts, it seems like. So Jiangnan, Life of Gentry, thumbs up for me. I really recommend it. 4.5 out of 5. It is a heavier Euro game, so keep that in mind if that's not your style. If you like this review, give me a thumbs up, subscribe below if you haven't below, and especially comment below if you know anything about this game, or if you want to check it out based on this review. I know I kind of blew through it. I don't want to have a super long video about it. I just wanted to give a brief overview and my thoughts, and hopefully get another video on this game out into the world. So if you like this video, let me know in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.